Okay. Welcome. If everyone could please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, get our meeting started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order at 7. Yep. Someone just wanted to let us know they couldn't hear us. So, you want to
Okay,
start?
we'll start with our usual disclaimer, which it took us a little bit of time to get going tonight, but we are broadcasting in 3 ways. We are live in the room in Town Hall, we are live on Zoom, and we are live on Area 58. As I said, we had to troubleshoot a little bit to get there, but we got there.
I'm sorry to throw a wrench at you. It just says that you are muted on my side.
Jen's trick wasn't working for me.
Oh, it
My
says
space
can't
bar
hear
was not
anymore. You're
working.
all muted.
Okay, we'll try again. So we are live in the room at Town Hall. We are live on Zoom. We are live on Area 58. As we said, as I repeated myself, and the people in the room heard this for the third time. We've had a lot of technical difficulties to have this happen, but we're there. It took us a few minutes. Just a reminder, this meeting is being held virtually through the Zoom in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. And we do have many ways in which the public can access tonight's meeting. So we're happy tonight to start with a recognition. We're very excited to have our mock trial team here with us this evening. So I'm going to give a little background on mock trial, and then we're going to have the opportunity to introduce the members of the team, do a recognition of them, and I believe one of the members, and maybe Mrs. Perkins, is going to talk a little bit about the mock trial experience. The Massachusetts Bar Association's mock trial program offers high school students from across the state an opportunity to test their skills as lawyers and witnesses in simulated courtroom competitions. Throughout the competition, students learn about the fundamentals of the American judicial system and how it can impact their lives. Each competing school participates in a minimum of 3 contests against schools in their regions. Students who participate must be able to demonstrate a comprehension of case law and the protections afforded to all of us in trial situations, a complete command of the facts of the case in which they're trying, and the quick thinking to connect the dots and make their case as lawyers and witnesses in courts throughout the state, though this year it was done virtually. The mock trial program benefits high school students who participate in it in many ways. The overall purpose of the tournament is to provide educational benefits, including but not limited to furthering students' understanding of the law, court procedures, civil liberties, and our legal system, increasing students' proficiency in basic life skills such as listening, speaking, reading, and reasoning, developing students' advocacy skills, regardless of which side of the case they're being presented and irrespective of the party in which the students most identify. And I believe through the process they have to actually take on both the prosecution and the defense. They have to be able to do both sides. Heightening students' consciousness of law-related professions, and hopefully getting students excited about possibly following the law when they leave high school. We're excited, and the reason why we're recognizing our mock trial team here this evening is this year's team advanced to the Sweet 16 in the state competition. So they won their region, went on to the Sweet 16, had an outstanding competition. The Sweet 16 unfortunately lost at that level, but that's an outstanding accomplishment to be in the final 16 in the state. They just really represented the Carver Public Schools and the Carver community really well. So I'd like to start by introducing the members of the mock trial team and presenting them with a certificate from the school committee. COVID has changed everything. In the old days, we'd bring everybody up and do handshakes across the board, but maybe tonight we'll just come up and present you with your certificate and not do handshakes for everybody, but then we'll have an opportunity maybe to do some pictures. And then I believe everyone's welcome to speak, but I think Riley Reed Davis does want to talk a little bit about her experience being on the mock trial team. And Mrs. Perkins, as the advisor, certainly you could join in as well. So with that, we'd love to introduce the members of this year's mock trial team and have them come on up. Olivia, come on up. Go up in front of the group. Corinne Clark, this is going on. Davis. Riley Reed Davis. Isabella Grossa. Amber Smith. Shayna Strutsky. And Jake Peters. And Mrs. Perkins, their advisor, would love to have you come up to the group. Jim's going to get a great picture. I don't know if the members of the school committee want to join them. Either behind or in front. We might have to come around. They're tall. They're tall. They're taller than all of them.
Okay.
Stay behind them.
Sorry. I've created a limbo experience for you.
Sorry, everybody. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. And another one. And one more. Great.
And obviously, yep. So anybody who wants to come up and join Riley, they certainly can. But Riley and Mrs. Perkins.
So, I just want to first acknowledge Jay Peters as our captain. He was pretty phenomenal this year. When it gets close to competition time, I'm probably not that easy to deal with. And I think that he smooths the way for everybody. We've had a great team this year. Every single one of them is equally capable. And we were really looking towards the end. I'm hoping, I think I have 4 more years I can do this. And I'm hoping we go to the championship next year. This year it'll be held on Friday. And this team is having an in-school field trip we're going to watch online. And then Chef Portalance is making us a banquet for our lunch period. So we're going to have a nice end to the season this year, and we're hoping for a great one next year.
And I should have done this because this is our technology issue tonight. No one at home can hear you.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
But-
I was going to say, no one said
But
anything.
if I put my computer here, then they'll be
So, hi everybody. Essentially, I just acknowledged Jay Peters. He's been a fantastic captain for this team this year. And I announced that we haven't been able to participate and attend the championship where our team gets to see just the highest level of competition that they need to approach in the practice of the competition season. And so this year we get to do it from at school because it'll be online. And then Chef Portalance from our culinary department is doing a little interdisciplinary work and going to provide our mock trial banquet. So thank you to Chef for that. And Ms. Riley.
So first of all, I'd say thank you for this recognition. It means a lot. And when I first heard about mock trial, it was in 9th grade, and I remember seeing my sister, and she would spend hours upon hours completing a bunch of work for this mock trial team. And I told myself that I would never do mock trial. It seems so stressful. However, I am here. So
For your second time.
yes, because sophomore year, someone got a concussion, and I needed to step in. And I've been on the soccer field, I've been singing on the stage, but nothing comes close to the demands of mock trial. It teaches you a whole nother level of critical thinking and perspective as the bar is set so high.
Nice pun.
So the fact that we were able to advance to the Sweet 16 and being the top 16 teams in the entire state is really impressive and by all means like rewarding. So I like to say on behalf of the mock trial team, thank you so much for this.
I don't know if any of the members of the committee have. So obviously, thank you, congratulations to all of you. I don't know if you have anything additional or.
By all means,
I am also a mock
Hold your
trial
space back.
alumni.
space
Unmute or hold your
Sorry.
space back.
I am also a mock trial alumni, and I remember that it's a very rewarding experience getting inside the quorum. As I understand it, you were only able to participate through Zoom, which must have been such a challenge, but it was interesting with the role playing and putting skills to use in the critical thinking aspects of how the law operates and works, and it's been rewarding for my career and future, so I think it's a great program to be part of, and congratulations on getting to the Sweet 16.
Excellent. Yeah, next up, you're right, the space bar's not working. I just want to say congratulations. I think it's exciting that we have, a pretty decent sized crew participating. So Ms. Perkins, congratulations on leading such a successful team this year, and congratulations to all of you for your hard work. And hope to see some of you taking the bar in the future and representing our town well.
Oh, sure.
Just want to say congratulations and thank you for all your hard work. It's not easy, I'm sure, to do this over Zoom, especially when you can't read body language and other social cues when you're doing it on video. So I'm sure that made it even harder. So congratulations again for making it as far as you did, and I can't wait to see what you do next year. Very exciting.
I also want to say congratulations to the entire team. Way to go, Mrs. Perkins. I know how many hours you put in, how many hours the students put in. I was fortunate enough to sit in on a few sessions and got to see it live and in person, and you are all so impressive, and you should all be so proud of yourselves for the way that you held your composure. You had some people that were very dramatic, I will say, on the other side that you were opposing, and you all kept your composure and were so professional and were so well put together, and you should really be very proud of yourselves for how well that you did. So congratulations, and thank you for coming in and sharing your success with us tonight.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, everyone.
Okay, really quick, testing. People said they couldn't hear me speaking. Can you guys hear me now? I feel like I'm on a Verizon commercial. Okay, good. They said they can now.
Yep, you got a yes. Excellent. Alrighty then. So, let's see. Yes, I shall unmute. Next we have comments from the EAPC. It looks like Tom Pinto is here.
Yeah, and Tom, you should be able to turn your video on. Yeah?
Welcome, Tom.
So good evening.
Okay,
I find that
Okay.
March is the most difficult month of the school year. Just long. Daylight saving doesn't help. And then, you throw in the weather, and then, one second it's beautiful like today, and tomorrow we have a snowstorm, which is not happening. We'll see a snowstorm. The weather's just so unpredictable. That being said, there's a lot going on. We're in negotiations for both our bargaining units. I see that the new middle school, high school schedule is on the docket tonight, which we negotiated a month back. And town meeting is on its way, so there's just a lot going on throughout the school year. And I hope everyone has a great St. Patrick's Day. If you enjoy a little corned beef like I will. And have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Do you want to announce, Scott, or do you want me to?
Yeah, if you can
Okay.
take them, that'd be great.
Okay.
It'd be easier.
Okay. Next, we have comments from the Student Council. We have Jay Peters is with us. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
No, hold on one second, Jay. I have to.
Oh, you
Scott's going to run over with this.
Yep.
One second, I gotta get Tom on.
Again, we ask everyone at home to just have patience and bear with us as we have technical difficulties in a laptop that's traveling from desk to desk so you can hear people speak in the room.
The anticipation.
It's never dull. It's never boring.
Alrighty, so good evening, everyone. I'm Jay Peters, as you know, representing Student Council. So over the weekend, we attended the Massachusetts Association of Student Councils, or MASC, Spring Conference. This was the first in-person statewide conference since the shutdown. It still wasn't like the normal 3-day conference we usually have in Hyannis that we were used to, but it was still an all-day affair at Worcester State University. We began the day with icebreakers and energizers to get to know each other and get us woken up for the day. We then had a general session with a keynote speaker. This is kind of like the layout of the day. Followed by a workshop, lunch, another workshop, a second keynote speaker, and then dinner, the banquet, and then finally the annual dance to close out the evening. Throughout the day, we learned new leadership skills, recruitment strategies, and met new people. We formed new friendships and had a blast singing the 2000s hits and working together. As a council, we were recognized both individually and for our work as a whole. So Dylan Young, who's a sophomore, was nominated as an unsung hero and named as a finalist for the Southeastern Massachusetts region. Mr. Tresca was nominated as Advisor of the Year, and was only bested by a very deserving Medfield advisor. And then Mr. Schultz was nominated as Administrator of the Year and was runner-up to Middleborough's Vice Principal. And then finally, Maggie Turner, Brooke Slavin, and myself were Commonwealth Leadership Award winners. And then finally, as a school as a whole, we were recognized as a top 10 project recipient excuse me, for our work with the care packages for our troops back in December. And I just want to thank everyone again for all those who donated. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Carver High Stugo for all updates and to see pictures from MASC. So it's kind of like older stuff, well not older stuff because it was just last weekend, but so this month we were running different spirited events throughout the month. The first week we had a pajama day, and then last week we made shamrocks and horseshoes with all the students' names on it and put them up around the building. This coming Thursday, in celebration of St. Patrick's Day, we're encouraging all students and staff to wear green, white, and orange. And then also on Saturday, we are attending a bocce tournament at Pembroke High School as part of our unified sports partnership with Carver Best Buddies. Finally, on Sunday the 27th, we're running our second annual Polar Plunge at Nelson Park at 11 a.m. to fundraise for Special Olympics. Anyone is welcome to join, and we hope you will join in on the fun and the fundraising as well. Additionally, juniors and seniors can get 5 hours of community service for raising $25 and attending the plunge. And then looking ahead to April, we have our Spring CMAS Conference, which is like our region, our Southeastern Mass region, on Wednesday, April 6th at Plymouth South High School. In addition to attending workshops and making more memories, 2 of our members are actually running for board positions at CMAS. So Sydney Sheehan is running to be the publicity coordinator for next year, and Dylan Young is running for a delegate. They will be campaigning on Instagram until the conference, as well as at the conference itself. If you want to look at their qualifications or just check them out, learn more about them, their Instagrams are Dylan, the number 4 CMAS delegate, and then Sydney's is Sydney, the number 4 CMAS Pubco. That's PUBCO, short for publicity coordinator. We wish them luck and look forward to another amazing conference. And then the last kind of far out event is in mid-April. We're planning our annual Spring Spirit Week and Pep Rally the week before April vacation, hopefully. We still have a lot to discuss and plan, but we are excited and looking forward to making this Pep Rally even better than the fall one. So thank you for having me, as always, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Do we have student ambassadors?
We do.
Okay.
I think you're still muted, Stephanie.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though. Barry and Robert Johnson?
Yep.
Okay. Bless you.
So that's okay, you can keep them both right here. How's that?
Double.
That's when you look like wave.
All right.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Ella Johnson,
I'm Harper O'Berry.
and we are student ambassadors from CES. We want to share some of the great activities happening at our school. Take it away, Harper.
Oh, next. Where's the thing? Okay. First graders are reading performing. Students are in groups. They create props and practice and perform for the class and staff members. Students are enjoying reading and getting creative while performing for their peers. Check out those awesome chairs.
These are some of the pictures that second grade students made to go along with their winter writing after painting. They wrote a description of a winter wonderland using 5 senses.
Carver Elementary School challenged students to complete 100 acts of kindness for the 100th day of school. This is Miss Garrity's class and Miss Lynam's class charts. Ella, what act of kindness did you do?
That's a great question, Harper. I helped my friend clean up a mess.
Kindness is a smile that spreads.
Oh, our kindness activity of the month of March was Kindness is Gold. Students and staff were given shamrocks to write a message telling a classmate or coworker how lucky they are to have them in their lives. We are so lucky to have so many amazing people in our school.
Every February, people in the United States celebrate the achievements and history of African Americans as part of Black History Month. Students researched and chose someone who has contributed to the world in a positive way. It was a great way to learn something new while being creative. When they put our information into a slideshow, and the entire class presented their slides to each other. Next, we're going to work on a presentation for Women's History Month. Here are a few of the Black History Month slides.
Oh, do you just keep clicking? And then that's all. Okay. My friend Mason plays futsal in the morning before school. It's like soccer, but with a smaller, low bounce ball. It is run by Miss DeMarsh. Everyone seems to really like it. Being active is a great way to start your day. Oh, okay. Go.
The Carver Coyote School song was made by Miss Cramp with friends. Let's listen to our official new school song.
Do we click it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're clicking in there.
Here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now just click that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if
Well, is
I
that
can
the song?
interject for a second on the school song, girls. So you may not know this, but and the school committee doesn't know this yet. It was a communication this evening. The elementary chorus is asked they'd like to perform the song for the school committee at a meeting. So the entire elementary chorus is coming to our April meeting, and they're going to perform the school song live. Now, based on the size of the chorus is, I think, over between 50 and 60 students. And we're not going to be able to do it in this room. So I was going to ask if it was okay with the school committee to do our April meeting at the middle high school auditorium.
Absolutely.
We should be able to work with Area 58. In the very beginning of the pandemic, as you remember, when we first, those who were on the committee at the time, when we first returned, or were discussing even returning to school, we held all of our meetings in the auditorium, live on Area 58, live via Zoom. So we do have the capability to do that from the auditorium. So with the school committee's permission, we're going to have our April meeting at the middle high school auditorium, and the elementary chorus will come and perform the song.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yay!
Okay. We have been working on a figurative language with Miss Chernicki. Using figurative language is our writing more interesting. Idioms are really funny. Mine is the green thumb. It doesn't mean your thumb is actually green. That would be weird. It makes you good. It means you're good with plants. Okay. This way.
Kindergarten registration has begun, and it's in person. It's been fun meeting our incoming class of 2035. It seems like kindergarten was so long ago. Now we're on our way to middle school.
Oh yeah. This is my friend Gwen's third grade class. They earned a campfire learning day for getting 100 compliments from school staff. They made s'mores, did some campfire skits, wrote and listened to some crazy stories by flashlight, and made some. What is that? Which one? Right there. Aluminum boats on a lake to float. The kids, who are PJs, brought in sleeping bags, blankets, and flashlights. They built a campfire with rocks, sticks, and lead lanterns. I remember my brother did this in third grade. He loved it. I wish I could have learned by the campfire. Oh well. Guess I'll have to have a real campfire this summer. Much better.
4th and 5th graders are making clay sculptures that shows how two different things can be combined. Students sketch their ideas, making every side of the finished work interesting. And added details. While working with clay, students had to figure out how to combine two different things together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you for listening and supporting Carver Elementary. We'd like to give a shout out to our very own Miss Steed and Miss Dawson.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with us at lunch. We greatly appreciate you. That was it.
Thank you.
Awesome job, girls. Eddie's been singing this song nonstop at my house.
Aww. It is so sweet.
It is cute.
I don't believe Joe is here, so we do not have Catholic council.
We do not have Catholic council. Okay. Are we still going to read?
No.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to comments from the general public. Okay.
Okay, so we have now reached the comments from the general public portion of our meeting. So if there's anyone in the room that would like to speak, you are most welcome to go up to the table, and we'll bring you a laptop you can use as a microphone so everyone on Zoom can hear you. If there's anyone on Zoom that would like to speak, you are also welcome to. If you could just please enter your name into the chat. Thank you. Anyone? Okay.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ron, just unmute. There you go.
Unmuted? All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison McNeely. You have all heard from me in the last week. And I did make a post on Facebook. I just need people to be aware, for people that aren't on Facebook or didn't know, about some what most would consider unfair hiring or interviewing practices at the high school level. I speak as a parent whose child loves the sport and who has nothing but respect for 3 coaches that have dedicated so much of their time over the past years at the youth level and at the high school level. I don't know exactly how many applicants there were for the high school football coaching position,
but the 3 that I know of that were denied even an interview have all been involved in Carver sports, have been respected by parents and students alike. I have not heard a negative thing said about any of the 3. Patrick Keneally, Mike Grant Sr., and Anthony Fulmine. 2 of those gentlemen have been assistant coaches. Mike Grant was, I believe, an assistant coach for the girls basketball team and at the youth level. But all 3 of those gentlemen were denied an interview for really unknown reasons. I have reached out to all of you. I've also reached out to Mr. Schultz and Mrs. Bowie, and neither of them have responded to my emails of concern, my request for an in-person meeting between myself and any other members of the football community that wanted to meet with them. I know a couple of the junior football players did meet with Mr. Schultz last week, and they will be requesting a meeting with Mrs. Bowie to voice their concerns, because these are 3 just stand-up members of the community that 100% put these kids first, have just a way of building a culture that is really the reason why we moved to Carver, is for the community and the culture. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of it, that might not have seen the Facebook post. So, all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, you can leave it there if they're good. Thank
Drop
you.
it.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one, I don't see where anyone has put anything in the chat.
No.
And no one's put their name in the chat.
Okay, so we are going to move on to the approval of minutes for the open session of February 14th, 2022.
I will make a motion to approve the open session minutes as presented from the February 14th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second.
Did you want me to second? Oh, sorry. Say that you need, I'm assuming.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussions? Okay. Andy's still not on, correct?
Andy is not on.
Okay. Should we roll call so we don't have feedback, or should we just all unmute and vote?
Your choice. It doesn't hurt to do roll call votes.
Okay.
Already.
Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote in an attempt to try to avoid feedback.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanuski, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. So it passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And that moves us to communications.
As I said, the only communication I had for this evening was that
Oh, yes.
the item that
Which
we're
you
gonna
shared.
move to April. April meeting will be in the middle high school auditorium with the elementary cars.
Okay, that is very exciting. So that brings us to reports from the superintendent.
And so personnel updates. So we'll go through. We have had some new hires since we last met. Michelle Massey, an ESP at the middle high school. Sheila Murphy is an ESP at the middle high school. Janet Murrah as a food service worker at the middle high school. Kim Kavicki is a food service worker. Jensei Cornwall as a lunch monitor at the elementary school. Gail Bourdoin as an ESP at the middle high school. Mindy Strobus as an ESP at the middle high school. And Diane Denon as an ESP at the elementary school. We've also had a couple resignations. All of the resignations listed here are actually taking place at the end of the year, so those people aren't resigning their positions currently because they're actually all teaching positions. So Annie Williams has announced her retirement as a reading teacher at the elementary school. Terry Sexton has announced her retirement as a kindergarten teacher at the elementary school. And Christine Chambers has announced that she's going to resign her position at the end of the year. So that's our personnel's update since we last met in February.
Okay. Thank you. So that brings us to the COVID-19 update.
So the COVID-19 update today is extremely positive. And I think that the best way to represent that really would be looking at our COVID dashboard. So if we look at the COVID dashboard as of today,
I'm on the wrong
Yeah, the
dashboard.
Carver Public Schools dashboard.
Sorry, I clicked on the first link.
Yeah.
You want this one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, so currently, we only have one student at the elementary school with an active status of COVID, one employee at the elementary school, and one employee at the middle high school. So we have three people in total. One student and two employees who currently have an active COVID status, which is so different than where we were in February, and certainly a lot different than where we were in January. The other thing that I'll pull up is the attendance tracker. And Meredith, you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the attendance tracker, because this has been tracking the attendance through the whole year.
It's churning.
Yeah.
I can literally hear it.
I'm much a little slow on the side. Is, you know, if you really look back, if you scroll up a little bit, Meredith, to February 28th. Yeah. So when we came back from February vacation, that 2/28/2022 was actually the first day that we published the COVID tracker all year where we did not have an active COVID case in the district. Which that surprised people. You know, people were expecting maybe after February vacation there was going to be a little bit of a surge. There actually wasn't a surge at all. It was actually that day, that individual day, was our lowest day in the school year. You know, since that time we have had a few cases, and so that's been the only day that we've published the tracker all year in which we had no active cases. But you know, obviously that's a lot different than what we were looking at when we first returned after the winter break, where we had, you know, at one point there on January 6th we had 84 students, 22 staff members, and so we had 96 people in the district who had an active COVID status at that time. So obviously, as I think everybody knows, things have just been trending, you know, in a really positive direction. The last piece I'll mention is I will make the connection to, because we do look at that state dashboard and we make that comparison at each meeting. So Meredith, you don't have to pull it up, but I'll just give the numbers. So our active case count for the last 2 weeks in Carver was 12 active cases in the town, compared to 99 active cases last time we met. The average daily incident rate of cases per 100,000 residents, you know, was 7. When last time we met, it was 57.7. And the positivity rate for cases in Carver, according to the state dashboard, was 2.8% compared to 15.4%. Again, underlying that, we've had a tremendous drop. And the last piece of this is the Carver Board of Health actually made a statement as of February 18th that they'll be no longer making weekly updates on their Facebook page. They're suspending their weekly updates moving forward as the case count has subsided. So we usually compare it to what the Carver Board of Health has published, but they have not published any information since February 18th based on where we are with numbers. So in terms, probably one of the most positive COVID updates we've had in a long time. So that's good news.
Absolutely.
Excellent news.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
All right, so we're very excited for our next presentation. We're going to have a presentation on the MET pathway. We're excited to have Mr. Aruda, Leo Lyman, and JT Toomey here with us. And they're going to give us an update about some of the work that's been happening in the manufacturing, engineering, and technology pathway, and one of the projects that they've done, and maybe they're going to hit on a couple projects. So we'd love to have you guys come up. And we're excited to have you here to talk about some of the things that are happening at the MET pathway.
Welcome and thank you for coming to share your experience.
Yeah, just pull another chair over. I love that we have visuals.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Neef and the school committee for having us here tonight to showcase some of the work we're doing in the MET pathway at the middle high school. I have here with me Leo Lyman and JT Toomey, two of my outstanding students, and they were involved in the project we're about to present. This is an example of a project-based learning opportunity. I'm sure you guys have heard something about that over the past few meetings. But in general, it's an opportunity for students to access their skills and curriculum through a project experience that's more authentic and real world. And in particular, this project, we were presented this project by two of my colleagues at the high school. They're both biology teachers, Mr. Witowski and Ms. Waitner, and they were looking for a DNA model. They actually had one. This model here in my hand is one of the tactile models they use for students with visual disability, and the model costs $75 right here. And we thought, well, maybe we could make a model that's at least equal to or potentially better than for a lower cost and manufacture them in-house. And ultimately, we arrived at a solution that looks a lot like the model that was presented to us, but it has more features. The students will talk more about that. But yeah, it has the ability to teach other things beyond what the original model provided. So with that, we'll just start with the slides. And I think we're going to walk through the proposal presentation that the students developed for our customers, Mr. Witowski, Ms. Waitner. All right, they're able to see this on the Zoom. Okay.
Oh, no. Thank you for reminding Mr. Miller. So they'll be able to see it on the Zoom in a second. All right, we're with you.
Thank you. Okay, so we try to model our experiences in the class as real-world problem-solving experiences that an engineer or technician would be going through. So we always start with a problem statement, and our customers had asked us to design, prototype, and manufacture a DNA model according to their specifications, which are on the next slide. We always have our customers define functional requirements. We can measure success of our projects, and these 7 requirements were put in front of us by our customers. A lot of them have to do with the function of the model, and also the cost. We were trying to get the cost to be less than $50, and we were able to far succeed beyond that.
So from our functional requirements, before we start actually making any sort of physical product, we model it in what's called CAD, computer aided design, where we make a digital model of the whole thing before we actually start to build it. So we use a program called Onshape for this one, and we draw all our parts, we put them all together, and then it lets us see it and make like little adjustments before we actually build it. So when we were making our CAD model, we were trying to get all our features. So for example, we had each different base of the DNA be a different shape and color for like visually impaired students, so they can feel the differences. And then we had little holes we could put magnets into them so they can snap. And then we made like different lengths because different bases are different sizes in the actual DNA. And yeah.
So one of the most important parts and steps to creating a physical model was determining what materials we would use. So what type of foam we would use for the backbone, and what plastic we would use to 3D print our bases. And we determined that by figuring out the pros and cons between the 2 candidates for our plastic, which was a PLA plastic and PETG, and we found that PETG, the filament, was physically stronger, it was washable, it tolerated temperature very good, and it won't break down in UV light and sun. However, it was more expensive, but that wasn't too big of an issue because of all the pros that it gave us. And then for the backbone, we used EVA foam, which is high density, it is has a good thickness, and it's the same as the original foam in the original model, and it's pretty cheap, and it bends and folds how we want it to. And this is our bill of materials, so it basically shows our material, the amount of the material we got, and the final costs. And the total project cost was $238 compared to $600, which would have costed if we bought all of the original model. And per each model, it came out to right under $20, which is very good.
And today we actually brought some of the models to pass around so you guys can see what they're like, starting with the original model. And then we have 2 prototype versions that we built up front to try to test different features such as the magnet strength. And finally, the final model, which is the colorful one that twists up like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass these around to everyone on the committee so you guys can take a look.
They're amazing. So you guys are gonna start making these, like for
Yeah,
other districts?
we've already started like the mass production. We just gotta finish like assembling them all, putting them into kits.
Excellent.
I have an 8-year-old who would love this.
Yeah, I mean,
Endless hours with this.
So you made a better product for less money.
Essentially.
All built at all designed and built in house. This is tremendous.
We were able to utilize the 3D printers that we purchased through the Capital Skills Grant last year, and the students were the ones that were running the show in the shop, which was really exciting to see them not only further their CAD skills, but also develop their 3D printing skills through this kind of real world project.
Can I just add to that, one of the benefits of the pathways is being able to.
This is the original,
That's the one they bought.
Yeah.
That's the one
that you model.
Being able to leverage these opportunities, but I love the fact that you created something that increases access and inclusivity for all students. So I think at the end of the day, it's great because obviously there are students that may not be able to see how DNA is put together now. They can feel it, so I think it's awesome.
This is great. It doesn't, like, it's a little twisty, but it just finds each other.
Cool. These are fantastic, you guys. This is it's awesome to see the technology at the school being used in real life ways, like very practical ways, because sometimes teaching can be like, well, how would this be used? But this is fantastic, great work. And I just want to say to the 2 students, like, you guys did an excellent job explaining your process and your skills. You seem very informed and knowledgeable on this, and so great presentation and great job.
Thank you.
It's so cool.
I have to say, I'm gonna put my microphone on. This is so amazing and like the ultimate fidget. I'm someone who loves fidgets, and this would just be entertain me forever. But thank you very much for explaining, everything that you went through, the process in putting this together. I mean, it's amazing to look at what you were able to create with more functionality at such a reduced cost. So really kudos, and thank you very much for coming in and for sharing it with us and for giving us,
playtime.
Yeah, exactly.
It's way better than the original.
Some tactile interaction. Thank you.
It's definitely better than the original. I love it. I think that's fantastic. Now, who does the designing in CAD?
So
Everybody?
we have every student made their own model,
Uh-huh.
but we ended up using one model that one student made.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
CAD's not an easy program.
Yeah, different programs are a lot easier than others.
Yeah, it depends. It's not an easy one, so especially to learn. So I commend you. You did an excellent job. That's amazing. I kind of want one now.
Right. Exactly.
I would leave it on my desk for work, and I'd be playing with it all day long.
And this is just one small example of the great work that's going on in all of our pathway programs, but particularly in the MET program.
It's amazing.
There's some really great things going on.
Yeah.
That is excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
It's that whole rigor relevance. So rigor, challenging problems relevant to what's really happening in the world. It was solving a real world problem. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for being
pretty
here tonight. It was
amazing.
outstanding.
Yeah,
presentation.
thank you very much for coming.
Thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pictures, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Right? How do we order those?
No, I want one.
I know.
It's way better than the puppets that are literally.
So amazing. Truly. Can I just say how amazing it is to have so many students come into our meeting and celebrate their accomplishments. I just feel like it's been such a long time coming for us to really get to see students and hear and see what they're working on. So I'm just so excited to have them back here with us. So Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. All right, and that brings us to upcoming events, which there should be a long list.
Yeah, as always, each month we just kind of take a quick look at the events that are coming up over the next couple of months within the district, from parent-teacher conferences to we have some drama performances coming up. Jungle Book, Jungle Book's at the elementary school on the 21st to the 23rd, 24th, 25th. We have the pole plunge, which I think Jay referenced. Senior show on March 31st.
Wow, I didn't think they were doing it.
Yep, so we're having.
Excellent.
I think they're still working out all of the working out to see if they're going to have the numbers for the senior show, but it's still tentatively planned for the 31st. We actually have our Europe trip coming up, so that is going forward. So there's a lot of great things on here in terms of some of the upcoming events. You know, again, going back to that COVID concept, much more traditional list of things that are happening around the district that just weren't happening some of the pre-COVID times. So it's just a quick review of the list of things that are coming up over the next couple of months for the committee to, you know, obviously we invite you to attend and participate in any and all of these events.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. It's so great to see a long list of positive events happening and people being able to gather and celebrate students' hard work. So whether it be music or drama or sports, any of those things. It's wonderful to see. Okay, so that brings us to recommendations from the superintendent.
So our first is the public hearing of our FY23 budget. To that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron, who's going to take us through the proposed budget for the school committee.
Excellent. Thank you, Ron.
Hey everyone, unmute myself here. So what I've got for you this evening is operational budget, which isn't new. You've seen that a couple times now, so I'll give you an overview of that again, just a refresher and a couple of updates that have changed since last time you've seen it. And I'll spend the majority of our time this evening going over revenue. We've been excitedly anticipating revenue numbers. We have those in. Board of Selectmen just voted those last week, so we're excited and appreciative of that work. And I'll give you a walkthrough of what the revenue projections look like, and then roll it all up for you for the FY23 with your proposed budget number for vote tonight. So again, you've seen our priorities before. I just want to underscore those because that's really what a budget is all about. It's maintaining our services for kiddos, obviously continuing to support our recovery from the pandemic, focusing on the strategic priorities of the school department. You see the link there for the educational blueprint for the Carver Public Schools. And of course, continuing the development of the pathways. You just saw some great examples this evening of the work that our kids are doing in the pathways, and our budget continues to support the development and growth there as well. You've seen before the way the operating budget is organized. We use the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's function codes for public accounting, and I'll walk through it with you in a moment.
Scott, I believe Andy has joined the Zoom. Sorry, Ron.
That's okay. I have to stop the share to bring him in.
Okay.
I can do that.
I got him. All right, Andy, you should be able to turn your camera on.
Nope. I was looking at an hour earlier. I thought I was logging in 10 minutes early.
Daylight savings time got him.
But I've been watching through Zoom last 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Welcome.
Andy.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
We're moving along just fine. He can't hear me. Whatever.
Back to the presentation.
Okay.
So your first slide, here's your 1,000 series. No changes there, district-wide leadership. Again, increases for Aspen, for legal services for FY23, all the same stuff you saw the last couple of presentations. Your 2000 series or instructional services, I have 2 slides for you there. A couple of reminders that I think are helpful to keep in the back of your mind as you look at this portion of your budget. The first is this portion of your budget is different this year because we have an infusion of federal funds, ESSER, essentially, for COVID. Those will roll off the books at the end of FY23, so June of FY23, that money rolls off the books. However, in the meantime, you see an increase in your 2000 series for a number of different programs and positions that are grant funded and temporary through 23. You see the list there. I'll read them to you. We've been over those as well. A couple of other items just to keep in the back of your mind on the 2000 series. That first bullet here in the next slide, it does include an increase in district special education to support students who would otherwise be out of district for us. So you'll see an uptick here in the 2000 series, but then a decrease in your 9000 series, which is tuitions, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. 3000 series, that's your support and other services. This is probably your largest change between FY22 and 23. Again, predominantly focused on COVID relief. It includes additional COVID nurse and health assistants, all offset by ESSER, so money in, money out. Those roll off the books in 23. Additional summer transportation, again, offset by ESSER. It does include special education and Aggie transportation. It also includes an increase for athletics to cover the cost of your hockey co-op program. You've got a co-op program at Wareham that has an operational cost to it. I added between last meeting and this one an increase in projected fuel costs. So gas and diesel. Again, Carver Public Schools and the town of Carver operate their own transportation program, which means we pay for our own gas and diesel. Interestingly enough, maybe this is more information that you care to know about gas and diesel, but price per barrel for crude just dipped back down under $100 per gallon, which feels amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing that at the pump, I hope, ? But anyway, you see an increase there to account for potential increases at the pump, depending on what those look like 6 to 8 months from now. 4000 series operations. Again, I have one change here that I'll mention from our last meeting. So this budget reflects the addition of a townwide technology support staff. Now that's offset by ESSER. It's a part offset by ESSER, part offset by operation. I'll give you a minute on this and then feel free to ask me any further questions if you'd like about it. We essentially have 2 help desk folks. One is at the elementary school, one is at the middle high school, and then we have a tech director. And as a reminder, the town has structured their salaries so that the school department covers the tech salaries and the town covers the O&M salaries, if you will. But they support everybody, as they should, sort of collaboratively. That said, the capacity in terms of tech has been massively increased over the past decade. Huge numbers of
2 years.
Yeah, past 2 years, right? Chromebooks, just for number of Chromebooks we have for COVID, as well as sort of video conferencing across every department, not just the school departments, but the town as well. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that group is pretty short-staffed. ESSER has a carve-out allowance for that sort of thing, so we've built that in with the hopes of potentially continuing that long-term. Right? Your 5000 series is fixed costs. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I'll spend a lot more time on the revenue. Last time we talked about this, I reminded you that part of the collaboration we've had over the past few months with the town has been to reimagine the model we use for revenue structures, one of which has been sharing a cost for health insurance and Plymouth County retirement actuarials. I'll talk more about that when we get to revenue, but that's why you see the reduction on the 5000 series. As I mentioned, we were talking about the instruction on the 2000 series. We had an increase for your 2000 series to essentially provide services to kiddos with special needs who would otherwise be served out of our district, out of Carver. It's bringing them back to their community, good for kids, good for families, and ultimately, from my viewpoint, it's good for your bottom line. Costs less to do that sort of thing. I'll say what I said at our last meeting, and I think Mr. Neef underscored it. That's kudos and a testament to your special education program. The fact that we have those programs here in Carver that kiddos and families can take advantage of is a huge advantage. Your out-of-district costs are one of those things that you really can only make an educated estimate for. And in some years that goes way up and there's nothing you can do about that, but giving kiddos and families the opportunities to be able to come back to Carver is huge. And this year, this fiscal year, you see folks being able to take advantage of that. Right? So there's your operating budget summary. No major changes, again, other than the ones I mentioned to you from our last meeting. If you go to the next slide, please, Mr. Neef, a couple of highlights to remind you of. You can see on your pie chart, you're looking at 70% of your operating budget on instruction, another 10% on support, and that's really where it should be. The large majority of your operating budget should be helping kids, teaching and learning, and supporting them getting to and from the schools at which they're learning at. You've got an efficient operating budget, a pretty low proportion of administrative and operational costs, and a low proportion of out of district, which I think is a rarity. The district should be really proud of that. So again, you've seen a lot of the operational stuff before. There's not many changes there. Your next section of slides here talks about the revenue. And I mentioned at our last meeting, there's really two sources of revenue for any school department. The first is your local revenue. That's your town's taxes plus state aid. It's sometimes called Chapter 70. And then the other portion are what you're called your offsets. Those are your grants and your school choice and your circuit breaker. And so I'll break down your revenue into those component parts. We'll drill down into each of them, and then I'll roll the whole budget back up for you at the end. Yeah. So let's start with your local revenue. That's the large majority of your revenue anyway. Again, I just want to take a moment to thank Sue Moquin and the entire town leadership team. We've been working over the past couple of months on revenue projections, and it's been a pleasure to work with her and a really collaborative process. And I don't think you get that in every town and every community. So we're fortunate to have a team on the town side of the ledger, really collaborative, really focused on what's right for everyone in the community. And so you see in that slide, this has really been a result of all of that work sort of behind the scenes.
Can I just jump on that for a second? Sue's been outstanding. Ron's been outstanding. How's that? So, Sue's been outstanding. Ron's been outstanding. I also want to take a minute to thank the interim town administrator, Mr. Fennessy. He came in January, and our first meeting with him, I kind of said to him, I would understand if you're coming in knowing you're here from January to June, saying I don't want to change a lot of things. And he said, no, actually, I'm here to do a job for the community, and I'm here to do what's in the best interest of the community. And if making changes is in the best interest of the community, I'm willing to do that. And I think that's a lot of credit to him for taking that position, where it could have been an easier position may have been to say, and we're on board with these changes. We think they're a great idea. The Board of Selectmen supported them, but still, it would have been easy for him to come in and say, no, I'm just gonna keep the status quo and keep things the way they are, and whoever the town decides is the new town administrator can kind of take the lead in those changes. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. So, and I appreciate him doing that.
Yeah, well said. Agreed. So what you see on the slide, again, we work really closely with them. The large majority of our Chapter 70 component of the proposal, the state aid proposal, just reflects Governor Baker's proposal. So that's, House 1, if you will. That's typically the floor. You have a hyperlink there if you want to peruse House 1 for us. It's likely, and at least in the past 20 years, that the governor's proposal stands as the floor, and then the legislature comes in and makes some additions. But you'll hear a theme here in the revenue projections. We kept it very conservative for all the revenue projections, with the intention of not being jammed up 6, 8, 12 months from now, right? Yeah. So here's a little overview of what we'll talk about with revenue. We'll, again, give you the guiding principles, walk through the revenue projections, break it down for you, and then roll it back up to your overall budget. Couple of guiding principles that Sue and I sort of took to heart as we were doing the build here. The first is just transparency. We're custodians of the community's money, and so we want to make sure you understand what it looks like, and revenue projections is a big part of that. And so you'll see some components in the revenue projections that try to provide some additional layers of transparency. Obviously, we want it to be equitable. We want to make sure that we provide resources and support for every service here in the town. We recognize that the school department is certainly the largest of those services, but it's really about making sure that there's an appropriate, equal, and equitable distribution of resources across the board. And the last is just to use models that are best practices. Both Sue and I have worked in other capacities, in other school districts, in other communities, and so try to draw on some of those practices that we can bring to bear here, where appropriate, where applicable, obviously. So here's your breakdown. We'll start with just the growth. This is your levy, essentially. So as you know, municipalities project growth using Prop 2.5. So you see your levy limit there plus Prop 2.5, and then a very conservative new growth. That's a new growth from a previous year, so that it's likely you'll have additional growth there, but you don't want to bet on something you can't guarantee, essentially. Right? You include the excluded debt. That's going to be money in and money out. You'll see that later in your ledger. Back out your overlay for any taxes unpaid, and you're looking at just shy of $30 million total local tax revenue from just the levy. Your next slide is your state aid slide. So the large majority of your state aid is going to come from Chapter 70. Carver Public Schools is a held harmless district. It essentially means you get the minimum additional allocation per student. We talked about, enrollment trends over the past couple of meetings. That's why you're at the minimum allocation, but it does mean you still get an increase in Chapter 70 every year. It averages between $40,000 and $45,000 sort of all in for your additional Chapter 70. It's not big money, but in terms of an increase each year, but it continues to allow the Carver Public Schools to continue to grow and increase. The only thing I would share there is the undesignated general aid. That's something that, again, set at the floor, the $1.64 million, $1.65 million. There's actually debate right now happening on the House floor, I want to say tomorrow or maybe it's Thursday, to try to increase that as well, to just be more commensurate with the taxes that have been coming in at the state level, which have been record highs, knock on wood, that continues. But again, we tried to be conservative, we hit the floor there, and maybe we see some increases over time. Your local receipts, your largest local receipt as always is your motor vehicle, it's 1.9. I will say a couple of items that are helpful to keep in the back of your mind though that are important to this model is your licenses and permits. So that $450,000 reflects solar revenue coming online in FY23, also conservative compared to the numbers that have actually come in for receipts. The goal here is to try to build that over time, but stay very conservative with that number. Your next slide is your enterprise and revolving. It's sort of a mixed bag there. That's essentially money that comes in from services here in town. Again, conservative, building off of the actuals from FY21, so 2 years, year and a half in arrears, to ensure that you're not finding yourself overextending your revenue. All in, you're at $1 million for enterprise and revolving. So what you see on your next slide is just your summary of overall revenue. You're looking at $46.7 million all in for projected revenue. And in our next slides, what we'll do is we'll back out some of those shared costs. So you start with your overall revenue, back out your shared costs, and that's going to be your appropriable revenue. So here are your shared costs. This is where I think Ms. Moken and I spent a lot of our time sort of doing the due diligence here. A couple of items that I'll bring to your attention that are new in this model that I think are helpful. The first is those first two lines you see, capital and non-excluded debt. So in your previous models the town and the school departments have used, you'd blended those two together, capital and non-excluded debt, into one number, which makes it just less transparent to see what is capital and what is non-excluded debt. You can do that, there's nothing wrong with that. Just our goal is to try to create more transparency, so we sort of split those two out, 1.2 in capital, 1.56 essentially in non-excluded debt. A couple of items to bring your attention to that I think are really relevant. If you go to the middle, you see excluded debt, that's that 1.19. You saw that at the top on revenue. So again, that revenue is collected from the tax base for all of your excluded debt, and then comes right back out to pay for the debt service for your excluded debt. Townwide IT is a model that we added here, and again, kudos to my colleague Sue there. So the town had a variety of different IT items that were built in the operational budget through capital, but they really were just operational items. They were annual items that you had to pay for every year. You were just paying for them through capital. And you can do that. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But in the interest of trying to be really transparent and help people sort of understand the mechanisms of your town government, they really should be a shared cost in the operational budget versus a capital. So that's a net zero change there, just moving it from capital to being an operational cost. And it helps everyone. It helps every department in town have IT services ultimately. The last two at the bottom there were what I promised I'd talk about with the 5000 series. So previously we had your health insurance here in your operational budget. I just want to underscore some of the challenges of that. And I'm sure you've all seen it because you've been living the Carver Public Schools probably longer than I have, obviously. The first is any change in your health insurance cost in a single department means that department has to, bless you, that department has to sort of, bless you, shoulder that change. And when those changes are dramatic, it means you've got to pull resources from other places and usually reduce services. That's just the reality of it. If you have an insurance increase coming at 10%, there's only one way to get that money. You've got to pull resources and therefore services from kids in your community in some way. And so by putting it as a shared cost, it means the entire town has to take a look at that and utilize its reserves and be strategic and those sorts of things with that number. And the same is true with Plymouth County retirement, sort of in the inverse. The school department has fewer Plymouth County retirement employees because we use MTRS, and the town has more because they have more Plymouth County. So putting both of those together just encourages that collaboration, encourages that cooperation, encourages that strategic planning for any increases in the actuarials for those. So all in, your shared cost is $15 million, which brings you to your next, next slide. I just said those bullets there, sorry. Your next slide is your summary on your revenue. So 46.7 is your total revenue for 23 projected, very conservative. 15 million in shared costs, which gives you with 31.7 available revenue to appropriate. We also adjusted the revenue split, again, to take into account that we had a lot of funds that were in our budgets specific to Plymouth County Retirement and insurance, as did the town departments. And so after a lot of discussion and deliberation, we landed at this 32.5, 67.5 to be equitable, and frankly just to meet the service requirements that all of the departments in your community need, including the school department. The next component of your revenue are the offsets. There's lots of buckets here, but the total number of dollars is actually comparatively small. So I'll give you a couple of highlights that I think are probably the most relevant, and then we'll do some drill down information as well. There's three that are probably the biggest here in Carver. The first is school choice, and so just as a reminder, each year the school committee votes on having school choice or not having school choice, and that model essentially allows kiddos from other communities to choice into Carver, and there's a tuition that they pay to get their education here. The second is circuit breaker. So those are essentially funds from the state, appropriated by the state, to offset costs to educate students with disabilities who require services that essentially cost more than typical. There's a formula that goes to that. It's like 4 times the foundation, and there's an appropriation at the state level, which is 72% of the overall appropriation. Anyway, we could do a drill down on circuit breaker another day, but the big picture there is for students who require services that are more than typical, there's a state reimbursement for those students. And the last are federal grants. We don't get a lot of the earmarked federal grants because we don't hit all of the check marks for the feds, but Title I and IDEA are two largest. We also get Title IIA and Title IV for technology. The next two slides give you some drill down information so you can see the annual offsets. Those are those big buckets we just talked about. School choice at $405,249. There should be an asterisk there under circuit breaker as well, and the reason there is just like we do with revenue, we use actuals in arrears. So that's actually your FY22 number that we use for FY23, so we're always a year behind. This way we're never jammed up when the state changes the appropriation from 72% for circuit breaker to 68%. We're not living paycheck to paycheck on that, if you will, right? And then your major grants, just shy of $660,000. Again, Title I and IDA are your two largest. And you can see on that right-hand column what they offset. We also collect tuitions for preschool. It offsets your preschool salaries. That number is pretty static each year because the fee for preschool is static each year. So all in, you're at $1.6 million for annual offsets, and those are offsets that we expect to occur every single year. We can bet on those. That's the federal government, that's the state government, setting appropriations on or about those numbers. The next slide is your one-time offsets. These are offsets that come off the books. They're temporary. The large one you have is ESSER 3, just over $600,000 now. I mentioned there's some additions there that you didn't see last time. The technology help desk staff is probably the largest there. A couple things to keep in the back of your mind. I've probably been a broken record with these, but This kind of one-time offset is not typical. We should not expect this year after year after year. So it's important that we're not building our budgets on it, which is why you see, again, the expectation is these roll off the books in FY23 when the money rolls off the books as well. So this is probably really the slide that you care the most about. This is your executive summary for your budget. Your left-hand column are the descriptions. The middle column is your FY22. Your far right-hand column is FY23. Again, it rolls you up all in, shows your total operating budget, offsets each of the offsets we just talked about, the annual offsets and the one-time offsets, and leaves you with a proposed operating budget of $21,418,428 to the dollar. And my request of you today, if the committee is willing, is to vote that number so that that would be the number that your legislation can vote at annual town meeting. That was a lot, but I'll open up any questions you might have.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Ron? No?
Well, always very thorough.
Very thorough.
Thank you.
Okay, no one had any questions. I just want to make a comment.
I think Andy has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Andy? It's okay.
Okay, I just had a question about the special ed reserve account. Ron, how much is in there? Did you mention that already? Did I miss it?
I did not. Oh, sorry.
I think it's up for Andy to speak now when you respond.
Can you hear? Okay. No, I didn't mention the special education reserve. We do have a special education reserve. I believe it has $350,000 in it. I will double check that number to give you an exact.
Are we utilizing that at all for anything at this point, or is it something you're factoring in, or are we still leaving that as for a true reserve?
It's a really great question. It is a true reserve. It is not built into the FY23 operating budget. Generally speaking, we never want to build a reserve into operating because then that creates a situation in which we are dependent on a reserve, which is a one-time resource. So just for some, I'll give you 30 seconds of context and pepper me with some more questions if you got it. So the way the reserve works is typically at an annual town meeting or at many annual town meetings, a community will appropriate some number of dollars to a reserve, usually based on what your free cash says you've got available. That reserve then is set to be available to cover any cost that would otherwise not be anticipated with the operating budget. So what we do is on February 1, and you see that in the presentation, it says out of district as of February 1, 2022, essentially, right? So on February 1, we sit down with the special education director, have one final meeting projecting our out of district costs for the upcoming year, which again is an estimate because student needs change and student enrollment changes at any given time. But if our overall cost comes in higher than that anticipated cost, we could lean on the reserve if we need to. The goal typically is if those costs come in higher, we try to first go to grants and some other resources. There's extraordinary relief through the state that we apply for. There's a few other applications we can put through. But if ultimately our needs aren't met through state legislative appropriations, then we'll be able to communicate with you all and say we'd like to lean on the reserve for $120,000 because we have ... unanticipated service requirements for this year. We'd use it for that year as a bridge year and then build that cost into the following operational budget with the hope that the community would then backfill or slowly backfill that reserve, bless you. Right, so if you used $125,000 in a given year because you had a significant uptick in operational costs for out of district, maybe, the following annual town meeting, you'd appropriate $50,000 of free cash back there, followed by the next year 50, and so on, so that you slowly build that up. I know that was long-winded, but that gives you some context for it.
Very sorry.
And Andy, I'll grab that exact number for you. I don't have it in front of me for the reserve, and I'll email you the exact balance as of today.
Excellent. Okay, so I was just going to say, I happened to attend a few of the meetings where both Ron and Scott presented the budget to the FinCom and the select board, and also, witness their relationship with the IJ, Mr. Fennessy, and with the new finance director, Sue Moken. And I just want to say thank you to Scott and to Ron and to Sue and to Mr. Fennessy for the true spirit of collaboration with which you have worked. As many of us know, that has not always been the case in Carver. In years past, there's been a divide, and it's wonderful to see, working towards a goal where the entire community can be successful. So I just want to say thank you both for all of your efforts and all of the work that you put in to do this. So in your spirit of collaboration. So it's wonderful to have this type of a budget presentation as opposed to ones we've had in years that aren't too far past. So thank you very much for that and for your detailed presentation. As always, accountant in me greatly appreciates all that detail. So I thank you. And so with that, I would welcome a motion to approve the school budget.
I will make a motion to approve a school budget of $21,418,428 for the fiscal year 23 school year.
I will second. I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we've been doing roll call votes. Andy, do you have something to add? We can't hear you, Andy. Sorry. Bear with us, Andy.
You should go, and we should be able to hear now.
Oh, hang on, my thing is on.
Oh, I hear some echo. I was just gonna say I couldn't hear Jen's motion, but if it was for the affirmative, then I'm fine.
Well, Andy, we should tell you the motion so you should know what it is.
Yes.
So the motion was to approve a school budget for $21,418,428 for FY23.
And as you may have noticed, we've had some technical difficulties, so we've been doing roll call votes, but since you're with us, it needs to be a roll call vote anyway. So with that.
Yes.
Yes.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanussi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ron, for all your work on the budget, and we're excited to have a level service budget going forward for next year, going to the town. So Ron does have some budget transfers, but we're going to actually do that at the end, if that's okay. So I'm going to move on to the MOA with the APC and the two reads pieces. Then we'll come back to do the budget memo and the budget transfers.
All right.
Works. Okay.
Sounds great.
So at our last meeting, Mr. Schultz presented the building schedule for the middle high school that has been developed by a scheduling committee that's been working over the past year. In response, the APC and the administration have worked on and developed a MOA, a Memorandum of Agreement, about the implementation of the new schedule for next year. The key points of the agreement include a 7-period rotating schedule with 5 classes a day, 65 minutes in length, the implementation of a concept called Power Hour. There's some guidelines in the MOA for teachers in the Power Hour, and there's also an agreement to revisit the schedule after 1 year of implementation to get some feedback from both parties. It would be my recommendation this evening that the committee approve the MOA, which you have in your background, and then at this time I'd answer any questions you might have about the MOA or the process.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the MOA or the process? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the Memorandum of Agreement with the EAPC in regards to the schedule at the middle high school.
I'll second the motion.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second, and again, we're going to do a roll call vote. Andy?
Andy Carver, aye.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanuski, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to Reed's Collaborative Capital Reserve Funds video.
All right, well, thank you again for approval of the MOA. And in terms of, we're going to talk a little bit about, I actually have a video for you this evening from the director of Reed's Collaborative and their business manager. So I'll give you a little bit of background as to what needs to happen. And there's actually, I believe there's 18 members of Reed's Collaborative. And I actually thought it was a great suggestion because the director and the business manager said, we'll come out to all 18 school committee meetings. But they need to do this over the next couple months, so they would have been very busy attending school committee meetings to make this presentation to all the school committees. So someone made the suggestion in terms of our era of technology, why don't you just make a video and then we'll present the video at all the school committee meetings and you only have to do it one time. Though I think they may have done more than one take, but so they've put a video together to explain what they're asking the school committee to do, and I'll give you a little background before we begin the video. So in June of 2018, the Reed's Board of Directors, which I'm a member of, approved the creation of a capital fund with a max limit of $4 million to support Reed's Collaborative's capital plan. Specifically, the fund was developed to support either the building of a new school or the renovation of an existing site to house Reed's Academy. So the Reed's Academy building had become, had really fallen into disrepair in many ways. It was an older building, and they were really looking for a new school site. And I should point out that the collaboratives, though they are state schools funded through school committees and through communities, they're not eligible for MSBA funding. So they do not get reimbursement for the building of new schools. I actually sat on the building committee for Reed's as a member of the board. And last year I was the president of the Reed's board. We do that on a rotating basis. It just goes through the different members of the school committee. And we actually went through the process of looking at trying to build a new school. And basically they said what they would have to do to increase tuition costs to build a new school just wasn't feasible. It was going to put them totally out of line with what the costs are for collaboratives. And then they would lose their student population because their costs would be just so excessive. So they shifted from looking to build a new school to seeing if they could get a new facility. And they have actually leased a new facility on Route 44 in the Middleborough Rotary. It was the old, I think, insurance building.
Yep.
And so they've actually taken over that space. So the background is this $4 million reserve or $4 million capital fund was developed to support costs that they were going to incur in terms of either at the time it was approved in June of 2018 to build a new building, or for the renovation process for the new school they were going to move into. So what they have found out this year through an auditing process is they realized that technically to create such a fund, which we did do back in 2018, requires a vote of 2/3 of the school committees. And the reason why that is in essence, they're saying we're going to hold some money in reserve. We're going to maybe charge you more than what the cost would be. And we're going to take some of that tuition we're charging the districts, and we're going to take some of that money and put it into this capital fund. And they said the school committees should weigh in on that. They should say, yeah, we support you having a little bit higher tuition cost to have this capital reserve. So now they're coming back out to the school committees and saying, we should have done this in 2018, we didn't. This fund does exist. And now we're looking for approval for it for the reason to support our capital plan, support our transition into the new building, and keep this in place. So that's my 3-minute summary of what they're going to do in a little bit larger video, just to give you context as to why they're looking for the school committees to take a look at this and approve. And they need 2/3 of the 18 members to approve the creation of this capital fund. I think it's 18 members. So with that, I will turn to the video. Now, we might have a little bit of problem. We'll figure out who's going to be able to hear the video.
I know, I'm assuming you don't mind me to play it.
No, I'm going to play it up here and see. Then everybody in the Zoom world will hear it.
Hello, I'm Dr. Teresa Craig, Executive Director of Reed's Collaborative. I have been the Executive Director for the past 11 years, and this is...
Hi, I'm Lindsay Albarnez. I'm the Business Manager for Reed's Collaborative, and I've been there about 3 years.
I want to thank you, the school committee chair, the members of the school committee, the superintendent, and the community for the opportunity to present this information via video. As we come to you with this request regarding our capital plan, I would like to provide a brief overview of Reed's programs, services, and locations. Reed's Collaborative was established in 1974. Your district is one of 18 member districts that form Reed's Collaborative. As a member district, your superintendent is annually appointed as a member of the Reed's Board of Directors. The Board of Directors meets 6 times per year or more. Various subcommittees meet throughout the year. The special education administrators from member districts meet 3 to 4 times per year as an advisory group and engage in work as specific program subcommittees. Reed's is one of 25 collaboratives across the state of Massachusetts. Reed's provides many services to our 18 member districts and provides services to an additional 45 districts in southeastern Mass and beyond. Reed's programs include Reed's Academy, which serves students with disabilities that impact their social emotional wellness. Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, which serves students ages 3 to 22 who are deaf or hard of hearing. We also provide teachers of the deaf, educational audiology, and speech and language consultative services to students within their districts. The Deaf and Hard of Hearing program contracts with early intervention for specialized services for infants and toddlers with reduced hearing up to age 3. Reed's Clinic provides comprehensive diagnostic and evaluation services, including psychoeds, neuropsychs, risks, and personality assessments by our clinical psychologists, CAPS and educational audiology evaluations by our audiologist, speech and language evaluations, and other assessments by our licensed professionals. Reed's District Services provides a variety of specialized personnel within districts, such as speech language pathologists, OTs, PTs, APEs, school psychologists, school counselors, all for short and long-term solutions, and also our newest Family Success Partnership counselors. Reed's provides professional development such as mentoring, educator evaluation for administrators, mental health and trauma, and other specific topics on request. We have 8 classroom locations in Norton, 1 classroom at Bristol Plymouth Regional Vocational Technical High School, 1 classroom at West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School, and the 2 academy schools located in Middleborough, which we will refer to in this presentation. As you can see, we are very proud of the services we provide to the students, families, and staff of our member districts. Reed's Collaborative is seeking to formally establish the reason and limit for the Reed's Capital Reserve Fund through approval of member school committees. Reed's Collaborative is requesting that each member school committee vote to approve, first, the reasons for the capital reserve, and second, the limit on the balance. The reasons for the reserve, as approved by the Reed's Board of Directors, are maintenance and improvement of Reed's properties and leased properties, to provide funding for payment of the lease for Reed's Academy Public Day School location during periods of time when enrollment is below expectations, and to prepare to purchase the location of the Academy Public Day School to eliminate the expense of a lease beyond 10 years. The limit on the balance, as approved by the Reed's Board of Directors, is $4 million for the reasons identified above. Please refer to the Capital Fund Reserve regulations, which are included in your handouts on page 1. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Reed's Collaborative currently has 2 capital fund accounts. The Capital Maintenance Fund was established by the board on January 24, 2013. The intent of the fund is to provide small annual funding to be used for larger capital maintenance projects to maintain our current facilities. The second is the Capital Building Project Fund. This fund was established by the board on June 7, 2018. The intent of the fund is to provide for a new or renovated facility for the Reed's Academy program, K through 6 and 7 through 12. A feasibility study indicated that the existing facility would be costly to renovate and expand as needed. After discussions with various financial institutions, the financing for construction of a new building on site was not feasible. I would like to note that collaboratives in the state of Massachusetts are not entitled to building project funds through the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The current combined balance held in these 2 funds is approximately $1,180,000. The two Reed's Academy schools, pre-K through grade 6 and 7 through 12, opened for students in a newly renovated location on September 7th, 2021. This relocation provided an opportunity to expand available placements to include a DESE-approved preschool classroom, which is already enrolled with students. The new schools have a shared wellness center / gym, a cafeteria and kitchen, designated classrooms for art, music, vocational programming, and makerspace / libraries. There are outdoor spaces for field sports and basketball. There is playground equipment that is appropriate for elementary students. This space is welcoming and an equitable learning environment for students with disabilities who are referred for placement at Reed's Academy. In planning specifically for the next 5 years, Reed's Collaborative Board of Directors has approved a 5-year capital improvement plan that encompasses both the existing capital maintenance fund and the capital building project fund. The 5-year capital improvement plan on page 1 of your handout prioritizes improvements to existing facilities while also allocating funds to provide financial support to purchase or continue to lease 44 Bedford Street for students in Reed's Academy. The details of this plan over the next 5 years do not require school committee approval, but are provided on page 2 of your handout to support the reason for the capital reserve fund and the limit on the balance.
This approval requires action by you as the school committee members of Reed's Collaborative and a signature of the school committee chair. Reed's Collaborative is seeking to formally establish the reason and limit for Reed's Capital Reserve Fund through approval of our member school committees. Just as a reminder, Reed's Collaborative is requesting that each member school committee vote to approve first the reasons for the capital reserve and second the limit on the balance. The reasons for the reserve, as approved by the Reed's Board of Directors, are maintenance and improvement of Reed's properties and leased properties, provide for funding for payment of the lease for Reed's Academy Public Day School location during periods of time when enrollment is below expectations, and to prepare to purchase the location of the Academy Public School to eliminate the expense of a lease beyond 10 years. The limit on the balance as approved by the Reed's Board of Directors is $4 million for the reasons above. The 18 member districts of Reed's Collaborative have provided consistent support and vision over the past 47 years. School committee members and superintendents have sought to ensure specialized intervention for the students with disabilities who require services provided by the highly qualified staff at Reed's Academy, Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, Reed's Clinic, Reed's District Services, and within the many specialized services provided to school districts. Thank you for taking this additional step to secure an equitable learning space for the students attending Reed's Collaborative now and in the future. Thank you.
Make sure I'm unmuted. All right, so I don't know if you have any questions. So ultimately, we're looking for the board to make a motion to approve the reasons for the Reed's Collaborative Reserve Fund as presented, and a limit of $4 million to be held in reserve to support. Really, the big picture is to support the transition to this this new building, which is really a tremendous upgrade to their current facilities. It's a nice place.
Looks nice. I'll make a motion.
Exactly.
Sorry, just moving this over. I move to approve the reasons for the Reed's Collaborative Capital Reserve Fund as presented, and a limit of $4 million on the amount that may be held in reserve.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Andy had a question. Sorry.
Are you putting your hand up, Andy? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
I didn't put my official hand, I'll do it now.
Okay.
I just put my microphone on.
Okay.
I couldn't hear any of that presentation. All right, so I don't know if it'd be a Zoom cam, but that's fine. I basically know what they are. quasi-public-private entity. They're basically looking to raise funds from the member schools to pay their lease and to build a building, or to buy the property. Is that what I'm hearing?
So Reed's is a public school, so it's a public collaborative. That's one of those interesting things in terms of why. So the Reed's Board of Directors have actually been pushing the legislature to make them eligible for MSBA funding. So what happens with Reed's is a public school district like the Carver Public Schools makes a decision on a student that we no longer have the programming in-house to support that student. They need an out-of-district placement. And then we do fund and we pay for that student from public funds to go to the collaborative. It is considered a public school. Now, some collaboratives are private and some of the institutions are private. But they're establishing, the purpose of this reserve fund is they're taking some of their funding and they're putting in the capital reserve to support the new building because they have no other way to do that except through tuitions. I don't know if that's a helpful response. Andy, okay, we should have hit it now, Andy.
They don't have any private investors at all. I thought they were quasi, not considered an actual public school.
I do not believe they have any private investors. I don't know if I can speak. Ron, I don't know if you can answer that question. I don't think. They do not have, to my knowledge, they do not have private investors. That all their funding comes through students who are through their tuitions of students who are sent there, which are paid for by public schools.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason I thought they had some private investors as well, and I wanted to be careful what we got in with financing on that type of entity, and so we wouldn't be creating a precedent or something.
Good. Ron wants to weigh in for a second.
Just for a quick second, so they, just like us, can accept private grants. That's the only kind of private money donations they can get. So they're structured financially in a similar way that you're structured financially.
Now, there is a distinction. There are some special ed schools that are private institutions. Reed's Collaborative is not. So there's public day schools and private day schools. Reed's is a public day school that raises its funds through tuitions. No, they're saying they want to be able to hold that much money in reserve. I think in the presentation and in some of the background materials, it's a little over 1 million that they currently do hold in reserve. I think it's like 1.1 million. But they're asking to have the limit be up to 4 million. And so I get back to my beginning statement, and maybe I could have been a little clearer on it. But the reason why it comes back to the school committees to vote on this is that ultimately they are acknowledging that they're going to raise tuition rates a little bit. And in raising the tuition rates, which goes back to the cost of the public schools who send the students there, they're saying that, like anybody who budgets, they budget and they make good faith estimates and say, based on a population of 100 students, and actually that's the number they use. Generally, Reed's has about 100 students. Based on a population of 100 students, these are going to be our costs. Now they're saying, okay, well, since we're going to build this reserve up a little bit because we need to support this new building, we need to have this capital fund. We're raising our tuitions a little bit, and part of that money is going to go to the capital reserve. And they want the school committees, in essence, have to approve that and acknowledge that they're doing that. It's a step in transparency to acknowledge that that's happening. That's the purpose of needing the school committees to vote to approve that. And if the school committee said, no, we're not going to vote to approve that, then they couldn't do that. They couldn't create that fund. But then that would hamstring them a little bit in terms of making that transition into the new facility.
But you have some control over it as well to vote the rate.
Well, that's actually being, like I said, there's an advocacy amongst the superintendent's group, the Mass Association of School Superintendents, and actually and Stephanie's saying MASC as well, to actually have the public day collaboratives be eligible for the MSBA funding, because they operate in many ways like public schools, and they just don't have the ability, because unlike a regional voc tech, and we're going far afield here, they can't go back to Carver in the community of Carver and say, hey, we're going to build a new school, we're looking to put a vote on your town election to have an override or to have a debt exclusion to support building us a new school. They have no ability to do that. So they're really hamstrung in some ways in terms of what they can do in terms of facilities. So they mentioned they've been in existence for 47 years. My understanding is the building that they were currently in was the building they were originally in 47 years ago. And so now that building had really become outdated, and they were looking for a new facility. And it's very appropriate, because really our question as a member of the board, being on the Reeds board, being the school committee's representative on the Reeds board, which is our next agenda item, being that representative, you would go, when you looked at the Reeds facility, their old facility, you would look at it and say, there really is an equity issue here. And it would be a concern in terms of students from Carver that we might be sending off to Reeds Academy, because their facility was becoming to a point that it wasn't maybe an equitable experience, and there were some real questions around equity for special ed students. And that's why there's been a big push from the Mass Association of School Superintendents to say that they should be eligible for funding through the state, because the reality is that many of the collaboratives are in a similar situation. We're going into a history lesson a little bit, but if you go back, a lot of these collaboratives were established 30 to 50 years ago. Because the reality, if you look more than 50, 60, 70 years ago, the types of services that special ed students received were very minimal. Maybe there weren't even special ed services. So a lot of these buildings, a lot of these facilities that are in that frame, that it's time for a new building for them. But there really isn't a mechanism that exists within the current structure for them to build new buildings. And that's going to come to a head sometime in the near future. But I actually think Reeds was really thoughtful about their approach and looked at being able to go out and gain a lease for this building and being able to have the money to redesign that space. And did it through, did they increase their tuition over the last 3 or 4 years to support this? They certainly did. And as Ron actually pointed out to me, and which is true, as a member of the board's directors, we actually vote the tuition rates each year. So the members of the board, the superintendents of the 18 districts, supported the tuition increase, thought it was reasonable to obtain the goal that they wanted to obtain to be into a new facility, including the creation of this capital reserve fund. Sorry if that was way too much information, but I don't know if it gives a little more context and understanding for the reason for why this is happening, and why we're asking the Carver School Committee to approve it.
No, I appreciate it. History is good. I honestly thought there was some avenue for private funding there, but that's why I thought they weren't eligible. But if they are truly a public school, they should be eligible. It's not right if they're not. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote. Andy?
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanussi, aye.
Stephanie Clardy, aye. It is unanimous. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Scott, for that additional history. Thank you, Andy, for asking that question. I knew some of it, but thank you for asking it. So, people in the room and others at home have more detail now. So, thank you very much. And that brings us to the appointment to the Reeds Board of Directors.
So, as a member of Reeds Collaborative, the school committee has to annually appoint someone to represent the school committee on the board of directors. Historically, that role is held by the superintendent of schools in all 18 school districts, so it's generally the 18 superintendents. So I would be glad to continue in my role on the Reeds board. I would entertain a motion to that extent.
I'll make a motion. I move that we appoint Scott Neef, Superintendent of the Carver Public Schools, as the Carver School Committee's representative on the Reeds Board of Directors.
I will second that motion.
Excellent. We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll have a roll call vote starting with Andy.
Kelly Mimi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanusky, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Scott, for continuing to be our representative on the Reed's Board of Directors.
Glad to do so. And then we're going to go back up to the budget items in terms of Ron has some budget transfers and a budget memo for us.
Okay.
Want to do the budget memo
first, if you can, please. Yeah. So I'll be brief. As your Q3 is closing, a couple of quick items for you. I'll start with your state and federal updates over in Beacon Hill. I think I mentioned this at the budget presentation. Joint Committee on Ways and Means will be doing some public hearings just focused on the unrestricted general aid. So the state's collected about 7.3% more tax than forecasted, and they have been on that pace for about a year and a half, which is great. But the unrestricted aid is only a 2.7% increase, so there's some advocacy to find some middle ground there that gives a little bit more support to local communities. As a reminder, we kept ours at that 2.7, being conservative, with the hope that maybe there's some wiggle room here in the legislature. They're doing that tomorrow, so we're hopeful to get some notice there. In Washington, I'm sure you saw the bipartisan infrastructure law was released. I gave you a link to the guidebook. It's like just shy of 500 pages. If you need some light reading to put yourself to sleep, that is highly recommended. But I included a fact sheet for you at the bottom as well, which is like 4 pages, gives you the highlights. 2 items that I think are helpful for education, just to keep in the back of your mind. The first is they have a component called the resilient infrastructure portion of the bill. I expect to see some kind of grant funding roll out regarding school facilities and maybe renewable energies, like those sorts of things. Those are the themes that are in that component of the bill. So that'll be exciting. I'm hopeful to see more there. And then they have a really specific educational component, which is called the Clean Bus Program. It's through the EPA. They're rolling out $5 billion between this year and 26. Everything from exploratory money to implementation and everything in between. I've reached out to EPA. There's no details yet, no RFPs yet. We expect that to happen at the end of FY22. It may or may not be a fit here in Carver, but we'll start doing the homework on it and keep you guys up to date if it is. Your next page of your memo is your Q3 budget update for FY22. Payroll and expenses down to the penny. And then if we can pull up the transfers, I'll give you an update on the transfers. If you can go to the second tab on the transfers, it's probably the easiest one to see.
For our
No, that's not the transfer side.
It's the Excel file.
Yeah,
That's the
I might
PDF.
have to go into the background. The regular background. Sorry.
Alright.
The transfers didn't get in the back, this one. So I'm going to stop my share for a second.
Do you want me to share? I've got it right here.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
Which we'll be able to see in the room. Be able to see it in Zoom, but not in the room. It's not like
Everyone has it.
yeah, everybody has it. Everybody has it in the
There's
background.
nobody like in the room.
Yeah.
You're off the hook, Meredith.
So anyway, if you can see me sort of cursoring around there, your first tab.
I don't see it
Oh,
yet.
I don't see it.
I don't
Sorry.
think you're sharing yet.
I got ahead of myself.
That's not sharing. Give me a second. I can definitely share it. It's just gonna take me a second to get there.
No problem.
Just go with our theme of having some technology
Yes.
difficulties tonight.
It's either
And everything got thrown off a little bit.
How about now, Scott? Does that help? Can I don't know if I touched your settings here.
Just having some technical difficulties. Bear with.
I can do it now.
Oh, and I got it too.
Okay.
We both got it. Who's first?
I don't want to.
There we go. Should be up.
All right.
There you go.
Ta-da.
Yeah, so your first tab is just, that's your summary of your budget. It's every single account you've got down to the penny. But the second tab is the one you probably care the most about this time of night. These are your transfers. I'll give you some highlights, but of course, ask me any questions you've got about all of them. Your first line here is just an encumbrance adjustment. We had an encumbrance that was in preschool, should have been in pre-K. We do encumbrances every quarter to adjust for any changes in salaries. That went to the wrong line. So you see an exact $33,116.40 in the teacher salary, $612 special education, and then the transfer of that from the preschool. A couple other items that are helpful to be aware of. So we purchased some risers over for the choral program, which are great for that middle high school. Those are unanticipated costs. So we have a transfer to cover those for this fiscal year. We have an unanticipated homeless student, obviously requiring transportation, and so we have costs for that as well. Some HVAC needs above the music room over in the elementary school. Thanks to Dave and his team, we got that squared away, but you see the costs there for that. I think the only one I'll share with you that is especially relevant is the middle high school supplies and materials. You see the $7,310.62. As I'm sure you know, the middle high school had been on bottled water for several months. We purchased hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water in cups. We're happy to say that thanks to our testing, and again, kudos to Dave Siedentoff, who has just been a star, we've been approved. The water and bubblers are back on, and so that's the last of our costs for gallons of water to be delivered to the middle high school. I'll open up to any of the questions you've got for any of the other transfers, but those are probably the most salient. And as always, net zero transfers, these are all within the budget.
Okay.
So I don't know if we have a motion to approve the transfers?
Please.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. We'll start with a roll call vote with Andy.
Andy Carver, aye.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanusky, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so where does that bring us to now?
Reports from the school
Oh, that
committee.
brings us to
Let's
reports
go-
from the
brings it to
school
you.
committee. Okay. So, Andy, you don't have the handout. Sorry, I only had them in paper form. I didn't have an electronic copy, but I'll make sure that you get one. It's just the Massachusetts Association of School Committees 2022 position papers on federal public policy. So it was really just for everyone to kind of peruse and see some of the things at the federal level that MASC is working on. I know I had a couple of questions from it. Just that I would bring it back to the committee from the latest MASC board meeting where we discussed this. So as I get information from MASC that I think, well, actually any information that I get from MASC, I'm going to share with the school committee, because who am I to say what a member might find interesting and what a member might not find interesting? So I will just give you information and you can review it at your leisure. It was a fantastic meeting, I have to say, on March 4th. As chair of Division 7 of the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, I sit on the board of directors for MASC. So on a monthly basis, we have a board meeting where we all gather to talk about things that are going on in our division, the MASC legislative priorities. Our director, Glenn Kuchar, is a certified lobbyist, so he does a lot of lobbying on our behalf. One event that unfortunately is going to be held on Zoom that's coming up is the annual Day on the Hill. There was some hopes that since the State House is open that it would happen in person, but as of right now that is not happening, so it's on April 14th. So I talked to Scott briefly to see, I'm not sure who's available, but if we would be available to potentially meet at the Literacy Center and watch it together, maybe bring in lunch. It's from 9 to 12:30. I also did reach out to our state representative, Susan William Gifford, to see if she was going to be in the State House that day, to see if she might be able to host us. I haven't heard back from her yet, but I will let the committee know if I do. So if we have the chance to go into Boston, I will certainly let you know, but they're not letting large groups in yet. So hopefully for 2023, we'll actually have the opportunity to go. It's a great opportunity to meet leaders from other communities. The students at local culinary programs prepare the meal for everyone, so it's great to see the students there. You can meet with your state representatives and state senators if they're available that day, so it's always a great opportunity to collaborate and meet other people. And then
if we did want to get together, we have the big screen in the conference room downstairs.
So that was my thought. I'm not sure what everyone's availability is.
We could do the Zoom on the big screen.
Right.
And I am going to reach out to student government to see if any students are interested in participating in this that day.
Excellent. So we can try and do something.
What is the date again?
April 14th, from 9 to 12:30.
Yeah.
I believe.
12:30.
So I've been in years past once before. Andy, have you been before? No. It's a great opportunity. I love that any opportunity to go to the State House is always great. So one thing I also wanted to mention, I spoke with Scott about some things that other school committees have been doing for years that our school committee has not, at least not in a formal manner. So a lot of other school committees have several subcommittees. We have a policy subcommittee. Some other districts have one for the student advisory committee, which is something that we'll be working on in the coming months, trying to get a student representative that should be sitting on the committee with us. There's a student advisory group of at least 5 students that elect someone for the year. They come and sit up here with us. They do not get to vote, but they get to participate, bring any issues to us, give us their feedback. So it's a great opportunity for students to get a little bit more involved in all the business of the school committee within their community. And MASC does training once a year, and this was something that was new to me. So I asked, why is there not more training, or why is this not communicated more? So I don't believe it's going to be in the course that Kelly is currently taking, but I did make that request to MASC, so they are going to include some training on that in the charting the course for all new school committee members. And then they'll also be doing some additional trainings, and they're going to be doing, I think, a quarterly training for the actual student advisors. So they just had one a few weeks ago in Marlborough. They had 45 students from across the state participate, and I heard some amazing feedback. These students are eager. They organize themselves. They have their own Slack board that they use to communicate. They were exchanging numbers, sharing ideas. It was really inspiring to hear all the different stories from the MASC Board of Directors who had student advisors there, and the feedback that they got from other students, because they took that information from that training back to their student advisory groups and their student councils and shared. So it's always great to see students get involved and use their voices, because quite frankly, they're the ones living on a day-to-day basis all the things that we decide on. So who better to get feedback from than directly from our students? So that's one subcommittee I would like to see us form, and then there are some others that I think in April.
Yeah,
or May we'll talk about.
In May we'll add a couple
right?
subcommittees to when we reorganize.
Yes. So there will be communication about that. I've also created some new folders on our drive where I'm kind of doing some data collection and different policies from different communities, different districts, so we can use that to say, okay, what kind of school committee goals, for example, does our committee want to establish? What are some things that we want to accomplish over the next year? Which is something I've never done as a school committee member, but this is a great opportunity for us to, find some things that need to be addressed and do what we can to see things through and make improvements for everyone. So there'll be more information to come. So as I'm going to these meetings, I learn something every single time. I so feel like the newest person that I haven't been on a school committee for 5 years, because there's so many things that I don't know. But it's a really wonderful collaborative group of very passionate advocates in education. So I'm very thankful to be a part of that. And
Our Division 7 actually has an event coming up on March 30th, which I think you all should have gotten an email about. We're doing a presentation in collaboration with Division 10, which is the Equity and Inclusion Division of MASC, in collaboration with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Educational Department. So they're going to be doing a presentation on the history of Indian education, because Mashpee is has the highest population of Native Americans, the school district does, in the entire state.
Wow.
So they've done some amazing work there. So very excited to have that event coming up. And so much more to come. So I want everyone to kind of save the date. November is the annual conference for MASC down in Hyannis. So I would love to work towards seeing if anyone would be available to go to that. And between now and then, I hope to have some type of a school committee retreat for us. So I have some ideas that I'm throwing around, and I welcome feedback from all of you, from each of you, if there's anything any topic you would like to have covered. You know, we do have the opportunity to have representatives from MASC come and present information to us. And then also at our April meeting, Jim Hardy, who is our field representative with MASC, is going to attend our meeting. And just to give a brief overview of MASC and what his role is, and explain a little bit about the division. So he'll be coming here to introduce himself. So
awesome, excellent.
That is, I apologize for being so long-winded this late at night, but I'm super excited in case you can't tell. It's just a great opportunity for us to be more effective. And I'm really excited about that opportunity. It's like a spring renewal. So that is my update of Day on the Hill and the MASC Board of Directors meeting, which was great. And again, I'll have an update the next time. And with that, I just want to say thank you again to Scott and to Ron and to Sue Moquin and to Mr. Fennessy and to the Select Board and to the FinCom for all of the collaboration on bringing us a level service budget. It's just really wonderful to not have to worry about having to take services away or staff. So it's just really a wonderful feeling. So I just again want to say thank you. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the middle school drama club who had their performances of the Red Tea this past weekend. I went, and it was wonderful to see the kids up on stage having fun, enjoying themselves, and just want to say you guys did a great job, and thank you to Tammy Johnson for making that opportunity available. Oh, and one other thing. I am, with the help of a few other parents so far, I am trying to revive the Carver Music Boosters. So if any of you here or anyone out in the community are interested, there will be some more information, I'm hoping, being sent home to families in the coming weeks. So the goal is to support music, arts, and drama in grades K through 12. So anything that we can do to revive the boosters, so we can try to supplement and provide items that any of those three areas might need. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, whether it's joining the board of directors or just volunteering, helping to sell tickets, helping to decorate, those types of things, I would certainly welcome as much help as we can get. So my goal is to find a board to take that on, but it's important, and our kids are doing such amazing things, and I can't wait to hear the chorus sing the song. That's going to be great in April. Thank you for making that possible. It was great to hear a snippet of it tonight. Okay, and with that, I will say Happy St. Patrick's Day. And who's next?
I'll go next. I had a quick question, actually. Thanks for all the information. You mentioned the student advisory group would be made up of a group of at least 5 students, and then they would nominate a member. So I don't believe we have this in place at our schools now. I've never heard of it. What do we need to do to start the process of formulating this group in the schools? I'm assuming, Mr. Neef, you'll have to take this to Mr. Schultz, because I'm assuming this would be middle high school.
We did have a school committee rep, actually. We had a student rep for 3 years, I think. in the past. We haven't had it since since
1 year. 1 year. Jenna, right?
She was here for 3 years.
Yeah, I was only. I think
You
I
were here with Jenna
I was only here for 1 year.
Maybe her last
of her
year,
term.
and so it is something. It is something we've had in place before. I think very excited about bringing it back, and I think we're gonna have to. We might have to start by looking at our policies a little bit, because we might have to revise our policies. That might be the first step, and then because our current policy is close to what the current Mass recommended policy is, not exactly, and then we'd have to bring it back to the school and decide if they did this through student council, and then the student council selected 5 members to be a separate board, and then they picked their representative. I mean, our goal was hoping to have this in place by September. It wouldn't be in place this year. I don't think it's realistic to have it in place before September next fall.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes. Oh, sorry. That's one of the folders I created on the drive.
Okay.
So I'm kind of gathering policies from different communities and putting them in there. So I will share that with everyone so you can read it as your leisure. But yeah, it's going to be a process.
And we do have a policy subcommittee meeting coming up on
Yes.
Thursday evening, so we'll be looking at that Thursday. So we'll probably have a draft of a policy for it.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. I look forward to hearing more from the students. I love the ambassador program that we have now and having the kids come in and present to us. So having somebody sit with us on the board, I think that would be great. And I guess rolling into my other comments, I just want to, again, thank Ron for all of his hard work and working with the town and our new finance director and our ITA on the budget changes. I think that they make a lot of sense, and I'm really happy that they were approved. So I think our Board of Selectmen and our FinCom and everybody else who took the time to analyze them, because as an accountant, some of those costs, it didn't make sense to me where they sat, and so I think that this makes a lot of sense, and it will assist us in our budget process and keeping our schools operating as efficiently and effectively as possible, which is always the goal. So thank you for all of your hard work, and administration and everyone else who participated. Not to say that I know Scott was probably very involved as well, and other people at the admin.
Well, Ron definitely takes the lead.
And I just hope that everybody, the COVID numbers are very, very happy. I'm hoping that we can just remove that from our from our schedule soon and have it not be a line item on our agenda. Won't that be a beautiful thing?
I almost made a proposal to do that, but I said maybe we'll hold off for a month or two.
So I just hope everybody. I hope everyone continues to stay safe and healthy, and happy almost spring. So it'll be spring and hopefully warmer weather and new sports coming out, and so that's it for me.
Thank you.
Oh, I lied. I did want to do a shout out. We had a lot of basketball seasons just end. And so I know our varsity Lady Crusaders, had a couple of intense games, and their season just ended, but they played really well. And even in our lower grades, I know, I think I saw, and I'm not going to get everybody, but I know the 6th grade boys team won their league. I believe the 5th grade girls travel team won their league. The 6th grade girls travel made it to the first level of playoffs and lost. And I don't know about the other travel teams and where they made, but I know throughout a lot of the grades, the basketball season's just ended. Several teams made playoffs, so congratulations to everyone who made playoffs, and congratulations to those who won their leagues. It's very exciting. All right, now I'm done.
Thank you for that. I'll go.
She can call in. It's all good.
I just wanted to say it's really great seeing a packed house with all positive demonstrations, presentations, It was really cool that the mock trial team's going strong, and hopefully next year they'll be actually in the courtrooms. And it's always a pleasure with the student ambassadors and their adorable presentations. And I was very impressed with the MET pathways, using all these real world practical tools to create real things. It's really inspiring where our education is going, and I'm really excited about the pathway programs. That's all I have for today.
Excellent, thank you.
I just want to reiterate thanks to pretty much everybody in the world, it seems, for all of the budgets and the students for working hard. I have to say, first, I'm relieved about the COVID, and I would like to second Jen's idea of removing that at some point from the agenda. It was nice to just be able to have a few minutes on it tonight and move right on. I also want to say thank you to all the ambassadors and students and everybody who came tonight. It is incredibly difficult to speak in front of a large group of people, especially a large group of people sitting behind desks. I'm sure it was very intimidating, and they all did a fantastic job. Congratulations to mock trial as well, because that is an amazing feat, especially doing it over Zoom. So I think I can't wait to see what's happening next year and the Pathways program. And I have to say about the school song, I knew about this literally a week or so ago because my daughter forced me to watch the video on YouTube and has been singing it nonstop. So I'm very excited to see the chorus come in April.
Oh, yeah.
And hope everybody stays healthy and safe and enjoys the warmer weather this week. It's supposed to be 70 on Friday, I think. That's what they said.
Nice.
Oh, and also one more thing, just to the general public, because I know that some people are still on and some people aren't. I've been getting a lot of questions about curriculum in general, about what's being taught in the classrooms, and so I invite those people who have questions to come to the meetings and watch the presentations. The presentations that we've had, especially the last few months, have been absolutely fantastic and very informative.
So just to back up that point, we've been going through a curriculum series.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really since started last summer. Each meeting we've been taking a curriculum area and highlighting it. We actually didn't have an official presentation for our curriculum series this evening, but we will in April and May and in June. And then that would actually, over the past year, and I know people might still have questions, but over the past year we've actually covered every curriculum area in the school district. So I think they've been informative as well, and we're always when people you can always direct people to the building principals and myself to answer questions they have about curriculum.
Yeah, and also I was telling people actually to even go back and watch some of the former school committee meetings because they're just so informative and so well done. I think it's very helpful for not only ourselves but also parents out there who have questions. Definitely recommend. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Andy, do you have anything to add?
I don't have much tonight. I just wanted to say thank you again for everybody who participated. I'm sorry I missed the first half of the meeting, but it was what I could see was very good. I also would like to issue my thanks to Ron and Sue because I'm also either a representative on the capital outlay committee. We've been having many discussions on capital projects, and one of the criticisms I know that came up in some of my joint meetings with the FinCom was that the budget just wasn't done in time and things have ever been this late and everything. And what people didn't realize is that Ron and Sue were trying to unearth the budget with line items and entries, journal entries they didn't know anything about. They didn't know what they meant. They didn't know where anything was. They had to decipher things. So I think they've done a tremendous job, especially with Ron being relatively new and Sue even newer than him. So sorry. So thank you for that, and just want to put a little context on. The other thing is that I hope everybody has a great St. Patrick's Day and a good rest of your spring. I will say I don't know if anybody has put anything out there officially. Elections are coming up in April. I just want to say, for the record, the school committee knows this already, that I will not be taking out papers to run for a third term. So I just wanted to officially put that out there. I want to wish everybody luck that is running, like Kelly, and I'm sorry there was another young lady running as well. That I'm taking okay because I don't know those, but I want to wish you all luck, and I hope whoever does win these 2 seats, it'll be a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not profitable, but in that way, you bring the very best of your thinking, even if it might not seem like your best idea, but put out of the box things out there. You never know where it's going to lead to, and you never know what questions or issues you're going to expose. And I'll have a more official statement on this later on, but I just wanted to update the public that I will not be running again. But it's been an honor being on this committee for the 2 terms I have been on. That being said, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. One final thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to give Carver Wrestling a shout out. I know that they had an incredibly successful season, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more information about that maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna make
in
sure.
April.
I'm not sure what happened with Captain's Council this evening. They were supposed to give an overview of the winter sports season.
Mhm.
And so I will make sure at the next meeting, someone's gonna do an overview of the winter sports season, all teams, records, accomplishments, students who were, won individual recognitions. We'll make sure that that's all presented at the next meeting.
Great. You know what? And where is it? Yes. That's Pippin was probably on the events, right? The elementary school has a play coming up, right, in March, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the upcoming events, Gina, I'm looking at Gina, if the spring musical is on there.
Well,
the
Pippin
dates.
is coming up on April 8th and 9th.
That's what I
at
thought
the-
it was,
yep,
but I don't think it's on the list.
the middle high
I don't think
school,
they're on the
7
I don't know if it's on the
p.m.
calendar yet, or.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was on there or not, but I happen to have it, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I will add the elementary school performance to my calendar as well. So, all right. So with that, I will entertain a motion to go to executive session.
Like it.
Great.
All right, I will make a motion to adjourn public session and move to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel and to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and not to return to public session.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote. Andy?
Sorry, Andy, I was late. Didn't hear you. You just
Yes.
need to say aye.
Kelly Mimi, aye.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Colleen Zanussi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. It is unanimous. We are adjourned 9:31 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.